A very good morning to all of you here on the venue in Oeiras and out there tuning in on worldrowing.com. The 2021 World Rowing Coastal Championships in Oeiras in Portugal, the final day. The final B of the women's double scull is just about to get underway in a little under 4 minutes now. We have a full set of B finals to come up, and then the first A final will start at 11:30.
Estamos então prontos para começar menos de 4 minutos para esta primeira final B do dia de hoje, com 4 embarcações prontíssimas para sair da areia.
So we have, for the first time during these coastal championships, a beach start, which is wonderful. And we have Spain 5, Real Club Náutico Candia with Irene García Villarejo and Marta Aparicio Moncho, if I could pronounce that nearly correct.
I think it was it. From Great Britain 3, we have the rowing club from Dover, Matilda Johnson and Maria Westboroughs.
From the Netherlands, from the Hope and the Amstel, we have Caroline van der Waal and Lisa van der Putten.
E de Portugal, a embarcação Portugal 1 é o caminhense com a Ana Lúcia Gomes e a Diana Ferreira.
So we have again boat handlers that help the crews to get underway. The crews are standing beside the boat and on starters orders on the horn and with the last ball falling here like yesterday, they will jump into the boat and get underway. So another official command. The boats are being taken to the water now, and then the athletes and the boat handlers will wait there for the signal. So start has been given. Seemed like a little confusion amongst the athletes there. And for the first time today, we hand over the microphone to our commentators on the rubber boat, James Scott and Peter O'Hanlon. Peter, how is it looking like on the water there?
Good morning, Sebastian, and good morning to everybody tuning around the world to the 2021 World Rowing Coastal Championships. Well, folks, it's finals day, and we're underway with the first B final of our day for the Coastal Women's Double. Slightly tricky start there, a lot of looking around, just checking things out before getting going. And the early leaders at this stage for Great Britain, we've got the Dover squad here, Matilda Johnson and Maria Westboroughs starting to pull out to a half-length lead ahead of the Portuguese combination from Caminhense, Ana Lucia Gomez and Diana Ferreira. We've got the Great Britain boat with a white hull, and then the Portuguese in a light blue hull, and then just trailing a length behind them, we've got the Dutch combination from De Hoop and De Amstel, where it's Caroline van der Waal and Lisa van der Putten. They're only a length back, and then Spain, they'll be struggling to get back in touch here. Spain just 4 to 5 lengths astern of the Netherlands. This is the Real Club Náutico Gandia, where we've got Irene García Villarejo and Marta Aparicio Moncho. Now, James, pretty calm conditions this morning. We were just remarking about how the day progresses and things out here on the water start out beautiful like this.
No, they do indeed, and it is really, really settled conditions for the start. We've got a bit of a different wind direction than we've seen for the last few days. Previously, since all the racing we've seen at the start of the Coastal Championships, the wind's been coming north across the beach and onto the water, and for the first time today that's not really in play. We've got a little bit of a westerly breeze instead, and it's going to continue to go more round to the west as the day continues. But it means that it's not been an impact at all. We're in the shelter of the fort right here at the start line, so they're not going to feel that breeze until they're out into deeper water. Also means we've got a very calm sea state at the moment. There's a bit of swell rolling in still from the northwest, but really gentle, long period, less than a metre, even further out into the deeper water. And yeah, at the moment there's no conditions that are going to be a challenge for them.
So they're coming out towards a third of the way towards the first turning point, and Portugal's starting to push out into a bit of a lead here. They've got a length up on Great Britain. Portuguese in their light blue hull there, pulling up ahead of Great Britain. We see the Dutch have stopped rowing. A little bit of trouble, I think, with the right-hand blade for the Netherlands. They're just trying to sort that out. It looks as though it's come out of its gate, and that's opening the door for Spain to move through in this B final. Bear in mind, B finals are contesting places 21 and onwards, so this B final being a four-boat race will be contesting places 21, 22, 23 and 24 in the World Rowing Coastal Championship rankings for 2021.
Still got a fair bit of tide running out here, and they're about to row themselves into some of the deepest bit of it. We've got the tide coming in at the moment, which means that it's going to be affecting them in a very different way to how it was previously. It's certainly very different to what we saw yesterday afternoon. We've got about 4 hours to high water, which is about 12:30, which means the tide's pushing them in towards Lisbon. So they're going to have to keep an eye on that buoy, see how it's moving on the landscape behind them, and make sure they don't get pushed too far to the left. However, it means they're probably unlikely to be much drama at this mark, because everybody's going to be pushed into better, clearer water to the left of it rather than down onto it.
You couldn't hope for better coastal rowing conditions, really. I mean, there's a little bit of chop out there, but it really is quite calm, and as you say, not much of a current for these athletes to contest with, and they're all just settling into their race rhythm. It's a 4K course that they're rowing through here, just 1,000 meters for the first turning point, and Portugal really easing in nicely to their race rhythm, pulling up to 3 lengths nearly ahead of the crew from Dover, Matilda Johnson and Maria West Burrows. So the field's starting to spread out. Spain have moved into third ahead of the Netherlands because there was a bit of an issue in the Dutch boat. They've now corrected that. So the Netherlands now in 4th place, but trying to move back up through Spain.
Interestingly, at the start of the day, we've got quite a lot of cloud cover out here, so there's quite a dramatic grey and dark horizon. But the advantage of that is that we don't have too much reflection out on the water, and it also means that it's much, much easier to spot a bright yellow mark standing up against a nice dark horizon than it is. So I don't think anybody's going to have any problems. I can already see the second turning point from here, and certainly yesterday that wasn't the case at all. So I think navigation's going to be much easier in these overcast conditions, but again, through the day, some of that cloud might clear and make it a little more challenging for the teams and races ahead.
Well, the leaders now starting to think about going around turning point 1, and it's just such a contrast, isn't it, compared to yesterday evening where the current was really ripping them through and it's almost impossible to take this corner cleanly. But Portugal's Caminhense now cleanly round. They're the leading blue boat ahead of Great Britain's crew from Dover. Caminhense at 28 strokes a minute to Great Britain's 32, so they found their race rhythm. Not much changing in the distances separating them. Great Britain round the bend now. They decided to hold it up on the inside of that corner and now try to pick the boat speed back up. That's allowed Portugal to move away to perhaps 4 to 5 lengths ahead of Great Britain. At the front of this B final, Spain managed to hold that lead ahead of the Netherlands round the turning points. So Spain in their white boat rounding the turning point in 3rd ahead of the Netherlands with the red canvas or red deck currently trailing in 4th place in this 4-boat B final.
You can see how wide they all ended up taking that corner with the tide pushing them all the way to the left of the mark. And you know, what a difference to yesterday when we saw people coming in almost at 90 degrees, 180 degrees to that mark, some of them having to row back on themselves around that, whereas now absolutely no drama, nice shallow angles, but it means they can keep the boat speed up as they come around. They're not having to stop and pivot the boat, and there's absolutely no risk really of an entanglement there. If anything, it's just making sure they're not rowing more meters than they have to, and trying to cut the corner closer rather than not.
Yeah, so we'll see how they handle this. Long stretch out now to turning point 2. We're still on the 4K course for the B finals, so this is a 1.1 kilometer leg out to turning point 2, and again, such a contrast to yesterday. By this point, we would have all of the boats out there on the water, all of the athletes bouncing and crashing around, trying to make their way through what was an enormous headwind pushing in the opposite direction to the current, and barely able to see turning point 2, but now you can see it crystal clear on the horizon in the distance, so I don't expect to see any navigational challenges for these athletes. They're all having a quick check at where each other are. I'm sure it will be a strong ambition for most of these athletes to win the B final, a good conclusion to their Coastal Championships for 2021, but the positions remaining largely unchanged here. Portugal still 4 to 5 lengths ahead of Great Britain, and then behind Great Britain we've got 4 to 5 lengths behind them Spain, who are just struggling to hold off a bit of a push from the Netherlands. They're rather close together here, but the Netherlands pulling up alongside Spain. There's only 3/4 of a length separating third from fourth at the moment.
Give an idea of how different the conditions are out here. You know, the water's still got a fair bit of movement to it with the swell rolling in, but the texture of it is completely different. It's like looking almost over a kind of oil slick, in the sense that the colours bouncing off it are really reflected because it's so smooth. And there's just no wind and no real disturbance to the top of it. And it's a bit further out, you can see the breeze. So you can see the breeze potentially that's going to come in later and continue to fill in. But certainly what we've got out here at the moment, very settled, very calm, and it will be really, really nice rowing, I imagine, actually.
Well, it looks like the Dutch are having a great time out there. They're at 31 strokes a minute to Spain's 28, and that's just seeing a slightly higher rate of striking move the Dutch up into third place now. The other two positions largely unchanged, but if the Dutch can keep up that rhythm, they'll start to move up and could get contact with Great Britain. We're about a third of the way towards the second turning point now, and it's a great race so far from the Portuguese, still leading out in front. Caminhense maintaining that 5-length margin ahead of Great Britain.
What strikes me here, Pete, is just how different every race is in terms of the time of day it's run and just the weather you get at that moment. Every race throughout the day ends up with different tide, and then as the day develops, and for each day as we've moved through this championship, we've got completely different wind for all of it, and no race is the same, and it means that tactics and strategies that they might plan and want to deploy on one race just don't work, or have to be completely turned around for another one. So they've got to be so adaptive in terms of what they do and the research they do for each race, and then how they manage it.
That's it. They'll have been thinking race strategy, preparing for this B final, and I can imagine that the majority of it will have been around their pacing and adjusting what they'll do over the 4K distance. With the conditions being as calm as they are, less thought required onto the navigational challenges of today. And this is where, being an endurance sport, a power endurance sport, rowing, these athletes will be thinking about how they're going to cover the 4K distance and making sure that they've got the capacity and endurance to contend and contest with the other boats out there on the water. So just looking at the margins again, no change at the front. Portugal still leading ahead of Great Britain, perhaps growing that lead by another boat length or two through the last 200 meters. The Netherlands gaining, they continue to gain on Great Britain. So Great Britain in second, the Netherlands with the red top deck trying to close in. They're still at 31 strokes a minute. Great Britain also at 31 strokes a minute. It's interesting to see the different rhythms that we're seeing out there on the water from these highly experienced coastal athletes. Great to see them competing here in Oeiras for the 2021 World Rowing Coastal Champs.
Just a small amount more bumpy as we're getting into the shallower water out here by the second turning point, but absolutely nothing to be slowing the boat down or really giving any of these athletes problems and challenges with their technique. It's just so calm. I think the difference here is that with the wind having come round from the west, what they've got at the end of this second leg is exactly what they had at the beginning of it. whereas previously with it come from the north, when they came out of the shelter of the fort and where the wind would come across the hills and down through the bay, it meant that the second half of the leg just got more and more exciting, where here the technique and the pace that they're employing right at the beginning is something they can maintain and push with the whole distance to turning point 2. And it means that they can really, really drop into a rhythm and then just keep going, settle into that, work on it, and then wait for the next turning point before anything has to change, really.
Well, it's conditions like this that make you really fall in love with coastal rowing, really. Certainly if you're out there just for a leisurely paddle on the water, because you can really enjoy the relatively calm conditions and enjoy trying to get the boat moving with a great rhythm to it and trying to make that boat sing. So just checking in on the positions again, not much of a change. The Dutch now only 2.5 lengths behind Great Britain for second and third. Portugal continue to run away at the front of the field. They're coming up towards the second turning point, which means we'll be just about halfway through this 4K course, and then they'll start to turn inland or inshore towards the Carcavelos beach here in Portugal. Very, very beautiful part of the world, and when it's like this, I can't think of a better condition or better scenery to be out there doing the sport that we love, a little bit of coastal rowing. So coming out towards the turning point, Portugal's Ana Lucia Gomez and Diana Ferreira from Caminhense leading the way ahead of the squad from Dover, Matilda Johnston and Maria West-Burrows of Great Britain. Just behind them then we've got from De Hoop and De Amstel, we've got Caroline van der Waal and Lisa van der Putten trying to move up and take second place away from Great Britain. And then back in fourth place from Spain, the Real Club Nautico Gandia, where we've got Irene Garcia Valarejo and Marta Aparicio Moncho.
As you say, beautiful conditions and a beautiful beautiful day to be out on the water, and you can really tell that there's so many more leisure boats about here as well. We've got some sailing yachts out on the outside of the course, lots of fishing boats out earlier this morning, and that gives a bit of a sense of what a nicer day it is to be out on the water than it was yesterday, when the only people we really saw out here were the competitors and all the support boats.
It's nice to not hear the howling of the wind every time we try to speak. It's really quite beautiful. Now, Portugal are around that second turning point. Great Britain just making the bend, still a length and a half up on the Netherlands. So we'll see how this transpires as they make their way towards turning point 3.
Temos aqui na imagem a embarcação portuguesa do Caminhense, as nossas representantes nacionais na liderança desta final B, com uma diferença de quase 4 barcos, sensivelmente, para as suas opositoras a remar muito bem, consistentes. O mar também está com uma ondulação porreira, nada de muito complicado.
Well, moving towards turning point 3 now. Portugal still out in front as they make their way towards the Carcavelos beach. The Netherlands have now got contact with Great Britain, so a tiny little bit of overlap here. This will be one of their crucial opportunities to move through if they want to do so and challenge for second place in this B final, because once they hit turning point 3, it's a little bit more bendy as they weave around 3, then turning point 4. Only 200 meters separating each of the remaining boys once they pass turning point 3, and it's a little bit of a slalom course, so that much more challenging because they'll have to go around the outside of the bend. This is their last straight leg opportunity to try and move up past Great Britain. Not much as we see it yet from Matilda Johnston and Maria West-Burrows of Dover. In fact, they've gotten tangled up, so the Netherlands moving right alongside Great Britain sees both boats get tangled up. That's a little bit awkward, so they're trying to push themselves apart, and this could open the door for Spain to move up and take second place if they don't get themselves untangled quickly. Just as I say it, they have successfully untangled themselves. Take a couple of quick strokes to just seal position ahead of Great Britain. With the conditions as flat as they are, even the tiniest bit of dirty.
Right, so beautiful conditions out there today for a flat water rower. Not so beautiful if you really appreciate what we had yesterday, the battle with waves and winds. But then here we have all the power and endurance that these athletes have accumulated over the last months of training, sometimes many years of trainings in their body. So this is the endurance part of the sport that we actually do love as well, apart from, of course, the navigation that we have been explained about so expertly by our sailor and rower James Scott on the boat, who has just completed his row around Great Britain, around not Northern Ireland though, but the main island, so around Scotland and then the very, very south end of Britain as well, in 43 days, if I remember correctly, non-stop, so 24/7, 6 guys on the boat, so 3 were constantly rowing and 3 were constantly recovering. So that's where he accumulated all that knowledge, both about rowing and about sailing, about navigating. And here with the river coming in at this point where we have the fortress in the background, river coming into the Atlantic, it's all about changing currents. And we have the tide, of course, changing the picture once again. So no problem of navigating, because the clouds also make for even lighting on the water, so they can much better gauge where they're heading to with this kind of light.
Ora, a embarcação portuguesa do Caminhense com a Ana Lúcia Gomes e a Diana Ferreira mantém a liderança nestas excelentes condições que temos aqui hoje. Não temos aqui o sol a espelhar fortíssimo, estas nuvens estão a dar também alguma facilidade em termos de visibilidade. A altura em que vamos na zona de este pequeno slalom que fazemos lá ao fundo, na praia em frente à praia de Carcavelos, para vir depois em direção aqui ao Forte São Julião da Barra, Portugal. Muito bem nesta primeira final B, nesta primeira competição deste último dia dos Campeonatos do Mundo de Remos de Mar. Esta é a final B, com as duplas femininas, onde alinharam as embarcações de Portugal, como podemos ver, na liderança. Também na luta pela segunda e terceira posição está a Inglaterra com a equipa de Dover, com a Matilda Johnson e a Maria Westboroughs, e a equipa da Holanda que junta o The Hoppy de Amstel com a Caroline Van Val e a Lisa van der Putten para este alinhamento. Um pouco mais atrás vem os nossos hermanos, olá, as nossas hermanas do Real Clube de Gândia, as meninas de roxo, a Irene Garcia Vilarejo e a Marta Aparicio Moncho, que tiveram uma saída um pouco mais lenta, talvez alguma confusão nesta partida que foi diferente daquilo que tivemos nos dias anteriores. Fizemos uma partida dentro da água e vão ser assim todas as partidas durante o dia de hoje nestas finais.
So we will see 20 crews competing this afternoon at 3 p.m. in the final for the medals in this boat class in the women's double scull. But we have 4 crews here competing for the rankings 21 and up. And we have our set of commentators now alongside the race again. Let's hear it from James and Peter.
Thanks, Sebastian. Well, we're back with you now as the crews pass around the shadow of the Fort de São Julio de Barra here in Oeiras, Portugal. Beautiful conditions here, as we've just heard, and it will be a stark contrast between the conditions on the water for this B final this morning compared to what we just heard from Sebastian, when the A final will race at 3 o'clock this afternoon, when the tide is going to be tearing through here. It's going to be absolutely rapid for the A final later on, but still leading as they come around towards turning point 6. We've got the Caminhense crew from Portugal, Ana Lucia Gomes and Diana Ferreira. They've opened up an enormous lead here, 250 or so meters ahead of the Netherlands, who have moved up into second place from De Hoop and Amstel, Caroline van der Waal and Lisa van der Putten just ahead of the squad from Dover. Great Britain 3, Matilda Johnston and Maria West-Burrows. And then trailing not too far astern from them, we have the Spanish squad from Real Club Náutico Gandia, Irene Garcia Valarejo and Marta Aparicio Moncho. So that's the running order as we come around the beautiful scene here around the Fort de São Julio de Barra.
Actually almost a more challenging sea state in this little corner than it has been out in the open water. Previously we've seen the rougher stuff, certainly further offshore on the deeper water, but at the moment it's quite confused in here with the swell rolling in and the shallow water, and nothing that's too much of a challenge, certainly no crashing into waves and slowing the boats down, but certainly they'll be having to concentrate a little bit more just to make sure they maintain that pace in what is rocking the boat around a fair bit in this corner, with half a metre of swell coming from a few different directions as it bounces around in the corner by the fort.
Yeah, for those at home, you might not know our precise location, but we're just in the opening of the river Tajus here in Portugal, which exits through Lisbon and passes Oeiras. So this is one of the key mixing zones where the sea currents blend in with the current from the river, and it causes all sorts of shifting water, particularly around these rocky outcrops just off the fort. So rounding turning point 7, though, Portugal squad from Caminhense Rowing Club still leading ahead of the Netherlands. The Netherlands have opened up to perhaps 50 metres over Great Britain now, and then they've got perhaps 200 metres up on Spain, coming into the last stages of this 4,000 metre B final.
Starting to see some of that cloud break now and the sun really come through, light up everything around us. So I think it's hopefully going to warm up as the day goes on. We'll get some of that cloud clear, and that will make it more interesting in terms of spotting all these marks, but definitely a brighter and a warmer day. It's been quite a chilly start compared to what we had previously.
Chilly, calmer, and a little bit more overcast than the previous few days. And just as we say that, the leaders now coming in towards the shore from Caminhense, Ana Lucia Gomez and Diana Ferreira. So we're going to catch up with our commentators in the tower, and that's Sebastian Franca and Inacio Silva. Good morning, guys. Tell us how this race wraps up.
Well, thanks, Peter, and thanks, James. When you say in the tower, I imagine myself to be in the tower, in the fortress just next to us. Fortunately, we're not. We're out here in the open and can welcome the crews that come now round the corner. Very low rate of striking because they have it in the bag, this race, for Caminhense crew from Portugal.
Ora, a nossa embarcação do Caminhense, Ana Lúcia Gomes e a Diana Ferreira a chegar, elas que lideraram desde o momento número 1 durante esta primeira final B. Vamos lá, público aqui na praia, vamos aplaudir a nossa embarcação do Caminhense e parabéns à Ana Lúcia Gomes e à Diana Ferreira por este esforço fantástico, fantástico. Vamos continuar com um dia cheio de competições. Lá está então para a corrida final. Termina desta maneira a competição.
Actually, also for the crews lineup on the beach, the best way to loosen your forearms is to clap your hands. So here we come, Portugal taking the win in the B final. And then a little way to go for the next crew coming in here. 23:54 is the time. Yeah, very close together, or relatively close together, the two crews that come in now. That's the Netherlands 1, De Hoop and De Amstel, two famous clubs in the Netherlands, Caroline van der Wal and Lisa van der Putten teaming up for this event, finishing their B final. Could be the second position, depending on whether they get a clean exit and then the sprint towards the finish arc that we have here. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a big hand coming in here to the finish. They have completed the 4K course successfully. And here we are, 22nd place in the overall world ranking for the crew from De Hoop and De Amstel. Next one's coming in, and it's Great Britain taking third place, and this is from Dover, Matilda Johnston and Maria West Burrows.
And Christoph, there's the boat from Spain, the Real Club Náutico de Gandia, España número 5, que tenemos Irene Villarejo y Marta Moncho. Hombre, que tenemos la equipa de Náutico de Gandia. Vamos a aplaudir la llegada de las niñas. Libertar la mano, batiendo palma. Cuarta posición. So position number 424 for the final ranking for the Royal Club Náutico de Gandia from Spain.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the final B for the men's solo with Belgium from Liège, Benjamin Louis.
And from Egypt, Arab contractors, Ali Assam.
From Algeciras, Daniel Salvador Garcia.
And from Spain, Real Club de Torrevieja, Iniesta, José Iniesta.
Cherbourg from France is France 2, Fabien Gernet.
And France 3 from Cassis, Alan Moreto.
Then from Libourne, Pierre Bouffard.
From Great Britain 4, Thames Rowing Club, Till Anderson.
Maximilian Ketzel for Germany 3 from Berlin.
From Ireland 2, Gallery Flash Rowing Club, John Arrington.
Then from Italy 1, from Lazio, Luca Del Lice.
Japan 1, Starline Japan, Hiroshi Nakano.
And Japan 3 for Sita Rowing Club, Ago Takumi.
From Lithuania, Bang Putse, it's Zigimantas Galitsanskis.
The Netherlands 3, the Rowing Federation of the Netherlands, Obedurk Tibben.
E de Portugal, o setubalense com Marcelo Simões, na embarcação Portugal 3. Portugal 4, do Caminhense, é o Gomes.
From Switzerland, from Grasshopper Club, Zurich, Christoph Braun.
Swiss number 2, the Sea Club Steffa, Benjamin Solant.
And finally from Tunisia, for ASL, Mohamed Khalil Mansouri. Yeah, so again we have a beach starts. The boats are lined up, lying on the beach with the boat handlers and the crew members standing beside, and they will get their instructions pretty soon from the starter.
Put the boats on the water.
There we are. Boats are allowed to be taken onto the water now. 2 boat handlers and the athlete in this case. You can see even 3 boat handlers in some cases. 35 kilos is the weight of that boat. So the athletes jumping into the boats and getting underway. And this means also for our team of commentators to get underway. It's all yours, James and Peter.
Thanks, Sebastian. Well, it's the green boat from Portugal on the Marina side. Hugo Gomez from Caminhense, who makes the early lead, along with Ali Hassan from Egypt. These two pushing out. Ali Hassan in the white hull there. He's wearing a red visor. They're pretty much neck and neck, pushing out the front of the field. Italy going with them. Luca Del Lice from Lazio in the middle of the field here. Then it's very, very tightly packed. Not much separating the midfield here as they start to make their way out of this bay area in Oeiras and out onto the main part of the course. Ali Hassan is going for it though. He's pulled out to a length up on the Portuguese athlete from Caminhense, Hugo Gomez, There's a length separating them, and then in third place, the Swiss athlete, Benjamin Solon from Z Club Steifer.
Certainly a much more exciting start with 20 boats on the beach all lined up next to each other, and what looks like quite a significant amount of space between them all. But actually you realise that with all of the slightly different angles at which they enter the water and start rowing off, that space soon disappears and the boats get really close really quick.
That's it. I think Ali Hassan will be eager to get to the turning point first so that he can have a clean rounding of it. I was just about to say there's been no clashing, but just as I do say it, there's a bit of a tangle between France 2, which is Fabien Guénard from Cherbourg Aviron, getting a bit muddled up there, but he's now pulling away. Zygimantas Galasanskis from Bangputis of Lithuania nearly got caught up in it, but just manages to avoid that entanglement. The field's starting to spread out as Egypt starts to get hauled in by Hugo Gomez of Camiñense over on the marina side of the course. The Dutch athlete getting into the action here, Oberduk Tibben from the Netherlands.
With such flat conditions and certainly such a settled surface to the water, you really get a sense out here looking at it of how much disturbance the boats can give and how you do not want to be in the dirty water of the boat that's in front of you, and what an advantage it is for the leading pack to have clear water ahead of them, particularly the ones just out to the left and right of the Egyptian leader.
That's it. Ali Hassan out in front at 31 strokes a minute. The Tunisian not far his stern, that's Mohamed Khalil Mansouri at 29 strokes a minute. And then sandwiched between the Tunisian and the Portuguese athlete Hugo Gomez, we find Oberduk Tibben. So here's the running order. Out in front, Egypt leading Tunisia ahead of Portugal by half a length, and then half a length behind the third place Portuguese athlete, we find Oberduk Tibben in fourth. Fifth place we have from Switzerland, the Swiss athlete Benjamin Solond. Sixth place then we've got Spain 8, which is Francesco Jose Pizana Iniesta from Real Club Náutico Torrevieja. And now moving up the field, Benjamin Luis from Belgium, starting to draw level with Spain and Switzerland. But Ali Hassan not slowing down, still holding just over a length ahead of the Tunisian athlete in second place.
Those first 8 boats are starting to get quite tightly packed together, aren't they? It'll be interesting to see who gives how much space when they get to this mark, or whether people realise that they've gone wide enough with the tide pushing them into Lisbon and up the river, and whether they then start to spread out as those realise that actually they can start to turn early and make it a bit closer to the mark. But I think there's certainly potential for a couple of interesting moments as they all try and make that move at the same time.
Well, we saw a number of these athletes racing in the much tougher conditions yesterday, as you say, and they will be enjoying this nice, flat, calm water right now. We're about 100 meters from the turning point, so they'll be starting to think about how they're going to negotiate this. A lot of them looking over their shoulders, just trying to see whether they're in a vulnerable position, sandwiched between any other scullers, and that's Benjamin Luis getting tangled up there for a couple of strokes with the Spanish athlete, Spain 8, which is Francisco Jose Pizana Iniesta from Torrevieja. That's allowed the Swiss athlete over on the far side, Benjamin Solond, to move through and try to take 5th position. But coming around the bend here, Ali Hassan for Egypt still leading. Let's see if we're going to have a clean rounding for this little pod of soloists. Good clean corner for Ali Hassan of Egypt, leading just over a length ahead of Mohamed Khalil Mansouri in second for Tunisia. Third place around the buoy then is the Dutch athlete Oberduk Tibben. Fourth, Benjamin Luis for Belgium. Fifth round is the Italian, where we've got Luca Del Elise from Lazio. Sixth place, Hugo Gomez for Portugal's Camiñense in the green boat. Then in 7th place, we find the Japanese athlete, as there's a bit of an entanglement here, France, and they're all locking up. Those going around the outside will have a cleaner bend. 7th place, the Japanese athlete here, where we've got Ago Takumi from the Seta Rowing Club. But this is Nakano Hiroshi from Starline Japan in 7th place. Spain 7 round in 8th, which is Daniel Salvador Garcia from Club de Remos Algeciras. Spain 8 now unlocked and coming around in 9th alongside Germany 0-3. So Francisco Jose Pizana Iniesta level with the German athlete, which is Maximilian Ketzel from Sportschule im Olympiapark.
Big entanglement there at the mark with the second half of the fleet. As expected, you could just see everybody converging on that one point, and as soon as a couple of people get locked together and stop, everybody else just flies into them, don't they? You could hear the knock of fiberglass on fiberglass as the relatively gentle impacts were happening, but it carried across the water really well in these calm conditions, and every time you hear that thud, you know that that's another boat stopped, and all the harder for them to then unlock themselves and get free again. It only takes one or two to stop, and then all the rest of the boats just row straight into them. So hard to maneuver with this little space. The advantage here, though, with the tide as it is that when that does happen, everybody isn't getting washed down to the wrong side of the mark. So when we saw that happen, particularly in yesterday afternoon's races, it meant that everybody then ended up on the wrong side of the mark and would have to row back around it. Whereas here, the tide's just giving them more space to untangle, more space to sort themselves out. So we haven't seen anybody missing the mark or having to make any massive corrections.
Currently in 12th place then we find France 4 after that slight entanglement. Pierre Bouffard from Liban Club Nautique. 13th place then for Switzerland 2. We've got Benjamin Soland, and not too far behind, no, that's Switzerland 1, which is Christoph Braun from the Grasshopper Club Zurich. Then a little bit of a pack here in 14th place, where we've got France 3, Alain Morata from Cassis, ahead of the currently level 15th and 16th, where we got the Lithuanian Galasanskis trying to stay ahead of one of the British athletes there. Tough to get a read on the bow number. 17th place though, Switzerland 2 after that entanglement, which is Benjamin Soland. And then Portugal 3 with the blue boat. That's from Setubalense, Marcelo Simoes. And then Ireland 2 from Galley Flash Rowing Club, John Harrington in 19th, ahead of Great Britain 4, Thames Rowing Club, Till Andresen.
Really fantastic rowing conditions out here. And the nice thing about it not being so choppy with not so much of a sea state is that no boat has a real advantage here, in the sense that the heavier quads aren't going to perform that much better. So everybody has got a fair chance and don't really have an advantage or a loss in the sea state we've got. So it's all about the rowers, all about their endurance, and all about how much power they can put down over these long distances.
Well, a bit of a change at the front of the field. We see Mohamed Khalil Mansouri for Tunisia push out to 2 lengths up on the previous leader, Ali Hassan from Egypt. So he's now in 2nd place. Oberduck Tibben for the Netherlands in 3rd, a length and a half up on Benjamin Luis of Belgium. 5th place is with our Italian here. We've got Luca Del Elise from Lazio. And then in 6th place, Japan 0-1, which is a great race unfolding here for Nakano Hiroshi of Starline Japan. Field pretty spread out as we come up towards halfway between turning points 1 and 2, so we're about 1.5 kilometers into this 4K course.
That cloud cover's just started to break and the sun come through, warming everything up. I can feel one half of me really warming up as it comes through, and it's going to get much warmer throughout the day now. I think it'll be a nice relief for these athletes as they've warmed up and really got into their stride on this leg. As you say, more than halfway through this second leg, just beautiful conditions and really nice manageable rowing out here.
It's great looking at how the leaders in this B final have just settled into a great race rhythm, and their boats are really flowing. So they'll be really thinking now about not only the navigation, are they heading in the right direction, but how are they going to react to any pushes here? Because this being a 4K race, they'll be managing that endurance, their stamina, and trying to balance out the tension between their lactic acid and their need to stay ahead. But Mohamed Khalil Mansouri for Tunisia, it's a great race for him. He's 4 lengths or so up on Ali Hassan of Egypt, who's still in 2nd place. Oberduck Tibben in 3rd is now perhaps getting moved through by Benjamin Luis, who's got contact with him. So this little tussle for 3rd place could be interesting as we come up towards the 2nd turning point, and whether they're going to converge in on each other to that turning point. And cause themselves any issues. 5th place still with the Italian Luca Del Elice from Lazio. And then we find Hiroshi, Nakano Hiroshi of Starline Japan in 6th place, ahead of, in the green-hulled boat there, Hugo Gomez, the local favourite from Caminhense, Portugal.
I think no trouble at all for anybody picking out this mark. With the sun having come up on it, it's standing out really, really bright, really yellow against a dark background. So I think they've all had it in their sights for a good long time. And as we see the whole fleet just in a procession really straight towards it, there's no big spread across it, and there would be no big advantage to that spread with such light wind, and not seeing what we had yesterday where an upwind side meant you would most likely have to row less meters, or certainly less chance of having to row back up into it. Although I think when they're coming down to the next set of marks, it's looking quite shady in by the beach, so I think they're going to have some problems maybe picking them out, or certainly making sure that they're pointing for the right mark the whole time. But as the day develops and the cloud clears, they'll probably become clearer. So again, a challenge for this race, maybe not the ones in the rest of the day.
Well, as the Tunisian reaches turning point 2, still leading the race, the leading 6 remain unchanged. It's Tunisia, Egypt, and then, no, I say unchanged, but the Belgian, Benjamin Louise, has managed to move through and take 3rd place ahead of the Dutch athlete, Oberdirk Tibben, who's now in 4th. 5th place, the Italian, is now dropping back into 6th as we see Nakano Hiroshi from Japan move around. The green boat then in 7th place is Hugo Gomez for Portugal, holding out just a little bit ahead of Spain 7, Daniel Salvador Garcia from Club de Remo Algeciras. He's got the yellow top boat, just trying to hold out ahead of this trailing little pod of athletes coming towards the turning point. Let's see if they can get themselves round nice and cleanly as they all condense themselves back in. They weren't too spread out, as James said, but towards the back of the field then, John Harrington having a little battle with Portugal 3, where we've got Marcelo Simoes from Setubalense currently in 19th behind John Harrington, and then in 20th place, Switzerland 2, Benjamin Solon from C Club Steifer. Interesting to see him back here after what seemed to be quite a fast start for him in the early stages. The lead is now well round the 2nd turning point and heading on this 1 kilometre leg into turning point 3.
Interesting to see how a couple of boats cut the mark quite fine, pretty much stopped themselves, pivoted on the spot and then started rowing again, while others were going much wider, keeping the momentum, but have now ended up quite a long way to the left of this line. And the most direct line is going to be the one that you have to row the least for. So the ones that slowed down at the mark, they stayed on the line but maybe lost some forward advantage. So I don't think we'll know who really comes out of that well until probably about halfway point of this next leg.
Well, the Japanese sculler moving quite far away from the fort area, and that's allowed the Italian to move back through into 5th place. The Japanese athlete in the bright electric orange top in 6th place ahead of
So we let our commentators move on to the next turning point to get a clearer signal for us. But let's use the time to have a word with Manuel Pita, who is well known on the beach here because he's the beach manager. Manuel, how many volunteers do you have to help getting the boats on the water?
We have, for this last day, we have more than 60 guys here helping us. And I want to thank them all. And the athletes that are here with us, I ask them to give the volunteers a big applause if possible.
Yeah, let's have a big round of applause for all our volunteers, our helpers here on the beach. I can tell you the athletes are really thankful for what you do. Great job done. Manuel, how long have you personally prepared for this event?
Well, I've been preparing this for 2 years. We had an extra year because of COVID. So I think the extra year was good for us. At the end of the championship, we are really happy with how the things went.
Very good. Yeah, so I think it went very smoothly, and whenever something was needed, you provided it. So that's a job very well done. So what is your personal outlook for the future of coastal rowing in Portugal? You're working also for the federation.
Yes, coastal rowing is growing in Portugal. not that fast, but we hope after this championship we can have new coastal rowing clubs, new athletes, and I hope that this last day, Saturday, we have more people from Oeiras, Lisboa coming to the beach and watch these great races that we are having here.
Fantastic and well said. So hopefully some more people come down to the beach or watch us on worldrowing.com. Manuel, Peter, and all of you volunteers, a big thank you. And yeah, let's complete this last day of the 2021 World Rowing Coastal Championships in the great style that we've had it so far. Thank you very much.
Receiving you, Ben.
So I think we can double check with our commentators, James and Peter. What's the situation in this final B of the men's solo now?
Leading crews now coming around towards turning point 4 in this 4-kilometer race, which is the B final for the men's solo. Not much change at the front of the field. Still the Tunisian athlete out in front. They had a good clean run into turning point 3. The only real shifting about, though, is that we're seeing a great race here from the Japanese athlete from Starline Japan, Nakano Hiroshi, moving up the order. He's in the electric orange top, glowing there in the middle of the field of white boats. And he's moved up past the Italian Luca Dell'Alice from Lazio to still 5th place in this B final as it stands right now. Ali Hassan still clinging on to 2nd place, so we'll see how this pans out as they now navigate their way around the Fort de Sao Julio de Barra and turning points 4, 5, 6 and 7 that come through in short order. 200 meters separating each of these remaining turning points, and not too difficult to navigate their way around now. What do you think, James? Conditions seem to be a little flatter just an hour or so, half an hour after the previous time we were here for the last race.
Yeah, they do. It does seem a lot more settled in this corner now. As we said before, there's not really any wind at play here, so it's all just about the swell rolling in and the tide that's moving against it. And that is an ever-changing situation with the depth of water and how much tide's running at an exact moment in time. Often the swell comes in batches, so you get a little set of bigger swells rolling in, and then it might ease off for a bit. So really, really hard to predict. And as you say, even half an hour ago, I'd say it was a lot more unsettled with a lot less formed direction of any of the waves and swell in here, whereas now there's not much movement in the boats at all, and again they've got really flat conditions considering that we're in coastal waters to be rowing in. You know, I by no means describe it as flat water, but it's certainly not anything that's going to be knocking them off their stride or pace.
Well, coming around turning point 6, Mohamed Khalil Mansouri from Tunisia still leading. It's the Belgian though who's made great ground, moving up into 2nd place, having rowed through Ali Hassan. So Benjamin Louis from Belgium now in 2nd, 4 lengths or so up on Ali Hassan of Egypt, who's still holding 4 lengths or so up on the Dutch athlete Obeduk Tibben in 4th place. And then we see from Starline Japan, Nakano Hiroshi, who's opened up quite a margin now on the Italian Luca Dell'Alice from Lazio. So there's maybe 60 meters separating those two for 5th and 6th, and then still constant and steady in 7th place, Hugo Gomes of Caminhense, Portugal, in 7th place. A lot of chopping and changing in the smaller positions behind that, and as they come through turning point 5, it'll be interesting to see what's developed.
Nobody seems so close there's going to be any entanglements at any of these marks though, are there? They've nice bit of space between all the boats and not really any reason to be cutting the marks too fine. All the angles into this final set are quite shallow, which means nobody's having to do big pivots. They can all pick a line, and then as they make and come alongside each turning point, they can sweep that to a nice gentle arc down towards the next mark, which at the moment with the sun having cleared the clouds is really, really easy to spot.
Well, around turning point 6 now, behind 7th place in the green boat, Hugo Gomes, we find Daniel Salvador Garcia from Club de Remo Algeciras of Spain in 8th. Then Zigomantis Galasanskis for Lithuania in 9th. 10th place is Spain 8, Francisco Jose Pizana Iniesta from Torrevieja. Then we find France 4 coming around the corner, Pierre Bouffard of Liban Club Nautique. Germany right alongside France number 2. Germany 3, that's Maximilian Ketzel alongside France 2, which is Fabien Gernard for Cherbourg. The German athlete just moving through to take 12th place ahead of France. Now the lead is coming into shore, so let's see how they handle the dismount and the run up to the finish.
Thanks, Peter and James. And indeed, the leading sculler from Tunisia is coming into our side here. Mohamed Khalil Mansouri leading this race here, looking to his left and to his right to gauge the shortest way to the blue arch branded with the World Rowing Coastal Championships logo, and of course with the Portuguese Rowing Federations and the Oeiras Valley logos, who are the supporters of this event. So final B for the men's solo, just about to be finished here, and it's going to be a little closer here to the beach. How does the Tunisian manage the boat exit? Fast speed on the water, expertly exited this boat and running to the beach. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big round of applause for our winner of the B final. And it's indeed Mohamed Khalil Mansouri for Tunisia. Another sprint here from our Belgian athlete from Liège, Benjamin Louis, taking second place here. Fantastic. And here's the congratulations again amongst the athletes. Another clean exit for our Egyptian friend. So for Arab contractors, Ali Hassan coming in. Here he is, happy man, 4K completed, and B final, third place. So again, we will see 20 athletes competing in the medal final later on today. So being first in the B final means 21st place in the overall world ranking, which doesn't sound bad at all. Indeed, it does sound very good. So now it's a really close finish for many, many athletes coming in here. Quite aggressive line here from Portugal, 4, crossing just ahead of the bow of Lithuania. But here comes Italy first. So Japan already in, I missed them. Japan, that was Japan 1 for Starline Japan. Then we have Italy 1, also safely in the finish. That's for Lazio, Luca Dalilice. For Lithuania, we have for Bagputis, Zigimantas Galizanskis. Spain 7. Who is Spain 7? Ignacio.
7 was Lithuania and 8 was Portugal for Caminhense, Hugo Gomes. A chegar já na embarcação número 4, o Gomes do Caminhense.
So then we have Spain 7 for Algeciras, Daniel Salvador Garcia. Then Spain 8 for Torrevieja, that's Francisco Iniesta. Then we have France 4 and 2, and that is Libourne Pierre Bouffard, and it's Cassis Alain Moretto.
Switzerland arriving very happy.
Yeah, Switzerland very exhausted, but what a great dive. Already training for the beach sprint for next year in Saundersfoot in Wales. Lovely close finishes here. And here comes Seta Rowing Club for Japan. It's Ago Takumi.
Yeah, great job from the Japanese. Also, the Starline Japan team, Yoroshi Nagata, was for the 5th position. Temos mais uma embarcação de Portugal a chegar. Vamos lá aplaudir nosso grande Marcelo Simões do Setoalense, a 18ª posição.
So 18 athletes in, Portugal 3 coming in 18th ranking here, 2 more to come. It's Switzerland coming in here. Switzerland should be Switzerland 2 then. Here comes Benjamin Solan for Seeclub Stefan. Here he is, Benjamin Solan for Seeclub Stefan from Switzerland, crossing the line overall in the 19th place in the speed final. So
No
30.
dive on the sand for the other Swiss rower.
And here comes Till Andresen, the German racing for Thames Rowing Club, Great Britain. So happy to be in this B final by just 7/10 of a second as one of the 14th placed contenders in one of the heats. So that was the B final for the men's solo. Thank you very much to all the athletes, and we're preparing for the next race coming up in just over 4 minutes. It's the Coastal Men's Quadruple Skull Final B.
Ora, vitória então para a Tunísia, em segundo lugar a Bélgica e terceiro o Egito. Vamos passar para a próxima saída. Vai ser os doubles masculinos.
So here we are with the lineup for the B final of the Coastal Men's Quadruple Skull with Coxman. We have France 2 from Saint-Malo.
And France 3, Cassis.
Great Britain 2 is Bexhill Rowing Club.
And Great Britain 3, Tarian Club.
Great Britain 4 is Fishguard and Godwick Jemima Rowing Club.
And Great Britain 5, Runcorn Rowing Club.
And another Great Britain crew in GBR 6 is Jersey Rowing Club.
And Great Britain 7, again Tyrant Club.
Great Britain 9 is Guernsey Rowing Club.
And German, Ruderclub Allemanian.
Well said. Germany, Ruderclub Flensburg from up north.
And from Greece, Omilus Philon Thalassis.
Then we have Ireland 1, Wicklow Rowing Club.
Ireland 2, Passage West Rowing Club.
Then we have Japan, Swift Racing Japan.
E de Portugal, o Nova Rowing, com a embarcação Portugal 4. Portugal 5 é o Cerveira. Portugal 8 é a ANL, Associação Naval de Lisboa.
And finally, Switzerland, completing the field, Seeclub Stefan.
Ora, temos então 3 embarcações Portugal 4, 5 e 8. ANL, Cerveira e Nova.
So while I have your attention as well, if someone lost a Santander,
Boats on the water.
if someone lost a Santander MasterCard, I have it. If you can identify yourself, you can have it from me. So the bow rower was allowed to sit in the boat to stabilize the boat. The rest had to jump in. And as I can see, everyone's in the boat. Not all of them have left the shore, though, yet. But I think you can have a better viewpoint from where you are. It's all for James and Peter.
Yeah, Japan take the early lead only by a foot or so ahead of Great Britain's Tyrian Club, GB7, trying to contest out the lead in the middle lanes there. Really tricky stuff getting started because, of course, all of these boats want a good, clean start, but everybody will start to converge in on turning point 1. The wind's starting to pick up a little bit compared to just a few races ago. GB3 now contesting the lead. That's the UL Tyrian Club alongside GB2, which is Bexhill Rowing Club. Those two now trying to solidify the front of the field here. They're alongside Germany 3, where we can see Ruder Club Flensburg.
Interesting to see how much more exciting and packed it is with the Coxed quad starts, isn't it? There's so much less space to be working with once all the boats are in the water. We saw a couple of people having to make some fairly big course alterations to try and stay clear of the boats in front and not get any blades tangled.
Well, GB2, which is Bexhill Rowing Club, now half a length up on UL Tyrian Club GB3. They've then got half a length up on Germany 3, which is the Ruder Club Flensburg. That's the 1, 2, 3, but they're not running away from this closely knit pack where we can see France 2, Switzerland 1, Ireland 2 starting to move up the order here. Passage West Rowing Club. They're now drawing level with third place Germany, and France 2 also drawing level with third place Germany. This is Saint Malo. Switzerland 1 in the action as well. This is Say Club Steifer. They're certainly not getting left behind, so we've got about 5 boats all level for third place behind the leaders. Still Bexhill Rowing Club ahead of GB3 Tyrian Club. Tyrian Club starting to move up and contest the lead with Bexhill, so I think we're going to see Tyrian start to move up and take that lead in short order. France 2 solidifying this third place now, where we've got Saint Malo. They're half a length up on that battle for fourth place now between Switzerland 1, Ireland 2, and then we've got GB3 nestled in the middle there as well, the other Tyrian Club boat. So all of these, I'm getting nervous now as we come up towards turning point 1 here, James, because there are so many boats contesting places 3 through 8.
There are, and obviously these Coxed quads don't turn anywhere near as agilely as the other fleet, which means that when things do get tangled and close, it's so much harder for them to be able to row into their own space and get out of it. I'm really interested to see how Ireland 2 with the Passage West Rowing Club manage this turn, because they're on the inside, the most right-hand boat at the moment. So if they can keep a bit of water, then they're certainly taking the most direct line with the tide pushing everybody else down to the left. So everybody else is going to have to row back up to the mark a small amount.
It's a disaster in the Tyrian Club boat. GB3, the bowman coming off his seat, missing a few strokes there, which has meant they've dropped back, now going to be nestled in the middle of this flotilla that are going to be converging in the next 100 metres on the turning point. They're putting in a bit of a push to try and get back up alongside Bexhill, who now have half a length up on them.
Does look like GB2 and GB3 are making their own space at the front, so I think as long as they don't get too tangled up with each other, then they both could have a real advantage being around this mark clear.
Let's see how they handle the bend now. Everybody's starting to turn in a little bit early. Current not too challenging though, so let's hope that they all take it quite wide and avoid any congestion. We don't want to see any broken blades because that's race-ending stuff. Now, coming out of the corner first, it's GB3 Tyrian Club. They seem to have had a clean rounding ahead of Bexhill Rowing Club now, who are coming in second place. They've gone nice and wide, but it's on the inside. Ireland make the corner clean. They're now in third place. It looked like they might hit into Bexhill. They haven't. So Tyrian clean out, Bexhill clean out, Ireland clean out. Passage West now trying to get back into their race rhythm. Not seeing too much congestion behind them. Ireland 2 in third. Fourth place then it's France 2. Fifth, Ireland 1 now, trying to row up the stern of Ireland 2. Sandwiched in between them, we've got Switzerland 1, and then Great Britain 7, length behind them. Great Britain 4 clean out as well. I think this is possibly the cleanest rounding of turning point 1 we've seen for any of the quads races throughout competition. no entanglements. Everybody out clean. The boat builders will be delighted by this. No damage to any of these rented boats, and they'll be making their way up now to turning point 2, but a fantastic rounding of that buoy. Back of the pack at the moment, GB5 just trailing behind Greece 2, and then in 17th place, France 3, 16th, Portugal 4, 15th, Portugal 8, and it looks like a quite a clean rounding there, James. No big issues.
No big issues. A notable absence of clunks of fiberglass on this one. That definitely wasn't the case in the last one. I think the two Portuguese teams, Portugal 8 having a small contact with Portugal 5 and just pivoting them around the mark, but that was the only boat that I saw going sideways and perpendicular to the way they wanted to be going. Everybody else seemed to make their own space and keep their own space around them. Again, the advantage of having the enhanced steering and navigation, even with the less manoeuvrable boats. It was interesting to see how the Irish team from Passage West did manage to keep that advantage on the right-hand side of the course, and without getting tangled up, they then came out of that turn in 3rd place, whereas they were probably in the middle of the pack in terms of position before that, but just having that advantage and not getting tangled up on the right-hand side really come good for them.
They did do very well because, of course, being a beach start, they don't get to choose their position out there on the beach. They're in set lanes, which is a seeding based on their performance in the previous rounds of competition, and Passage West just ended up through the seeding process on the 4th side of the start line, which means they would be on the inside of that bend no matter what. So they've clearly been doing their research, all of these coxswains, just thinking about their strategy for approaching turning point 1, all of them taking it nice and wide. I think they've all got the memo that an entanglement around the turning point is race ending or can cost just so many positions that you'll never make it back up. Now back to the front of the field is GB3 leading. That's Tyrian Club, where we've got Ian Middleton, Christopher Hayward, Charles Clark, Toby Langston and Stuart Pearce. They're 2 lengths up on GB2, which is the Bexhill Rowing Club, maintaining 2nd position. Phil McCory, Douglas Holdaway, Greg Anderson, Rachel Holdaway and Martin Matt. And then it's Passage West level with France 2, which is Sam Mallow. So Passage West for Ireland currently level for 3rd place with France 2. Trying to sneak up on the inside, we've got the other Irish boat where we find Ireland 1's Wicklow Rowing Club just half a length down on that little tussle for 3rd place. We're already halfway towards the 2nd turning point, which means we're 1.5 kilometres into this 4K course.
Interesting to see how now we're on the 2nd half of this 2nd leg, that the water again has just come alive with texture and dark detail as the wind started to blow across it. Before, this looked like an oil slick out here. It was so smooth and so calm with just the colours reflected from the sky above, and now it's just gone dark and alive, which goes to show how quickly the conditions do change and how much more exciting I think it's going to get through this race and the rest of the day.
It's actually a little bit chilly out here now that the sun's hiding behind some clouds, but the beautiful Tyrian strip of white and purple check and their snail logo, they're in the blue decked white boat out at the front of the field ahead of GB2. This battle for 3rd still absolutely raging on. Nothing separating the 3 boats here. We've got Wicklow, Passage West and Sam Mallow absolutely level. Passage West in their green strip in a white boat, and then we've got Wicklow in the middle, a blue decked boat there, and then Sam Mallow on the outside of the course, also in a blue decked boat with their dark strip on, and then just behind them with their white tops and red shorts, you can see the distinctive colours of the Swiss squad from Say Club Staufer.
Really interesting to watch this little tussle between Ireland 2, Ireland 1 and France 3. They're bow to bow, almost in a complete straight line, just one gently popping up in front of the other as their stroke lengths differ. Great
6th
effort.
place at the moment, Switzerland just holding a length up on the other Tyrian Club boat, where we've got Great Britain 7, a length up on GB9 for Guernsey Rowing Club, and then half a length behind them we find Great Britain 4, which is the Fishguard and Goodwick Jemima Rowing Club combination. So they're trying to move up past Great Britain 9, which will take them into 8th place. Fishguard and Goodwick Jemima trying to build up pace here. Harry Perry in the 3 seat. And a number of Owens in this boat: Theo Owen, Jerry Owen, Owen Steele, Ben Curtis, Harry Perry. They're now pulling up level with the Guernsey Rowing Club for 8th place. 10th place is Germany 2, where we've got the Ruder Club Alemannia, who are a length behind that little tussle for 8th, and then with the orange-tipped bow, we see Portugal 8, which is the Naval Association of Lisbon. Coming up towards the second turning point, 2 kilometers into this 4K course. Tyrian Club still out in front. That's GB leading the way, 2 lengths or so up on the Bexhill Rowing Club GB2. Let's see how they make it round this bend. Saint-Malo cleanly round. Saint-Malo cleanly round. And just behind them, it's Ireland 1, the Wicklow Rowing Club, who have moved up into 4th place. Switzerland taking a wide bend here and shifting into 5th place, rowing past Passage West. Great Britain 7 rowing past Passage West as well. That's the other Tyrian Club boat trying to nip their way into 6th place. Passage West now finding their boat speed again. They're level with Tyrian coming out of turning point 2. GB4 we find behind Passage West, so this is that boat from Fishguard and Goodwick Jemima. They've moved up the order a couple of places here, now a length up on GB9, which is the Guernsey Rowing Club. Boats now making their way towards turning point 3. Seems like a good clean rounding of this second turning point, not too much bashing about, so a clean beat here for the men's Coxed quads.
I think again I only saw one bow sneak its way into the back of another boat really, and I think you saw Portugal 8 and Germany 2 coming off at a bit of an angle as they dealt with that and tried to get their blades back in the water, but a disadvantage to them at all. They've both managed to come back on course, and looks like the entire pack are making a really straight line for the next mark. Obviously clearly picked it out alongside the beach and heading straight forward at full pace.
Lots going on the way to turning point 3 as we head towards the Carcavelos beach here in Oeiras, Portugal. Beautiful scenes, and it's nice to see these men's Coxed quads so cleanly steered as we head inland now, inshore towards that Carcavelos beach. It's still GB3 UL's Tyrian Club, University of London Tyrian Club, ahead of Bexhill Rowing Club at the front of the field. Not much going to change there, I don't think. That Tyrian Club boat just looks so powerful and confident out in front. Be hard work for anybody to try and close in on them. They're ticking it over at 30 strokes a minute to Bexhill. Bexhill at 30 as well. And then just behind them we have that boat from Saint-Malo, currently in 3rd place.
Not much space here between some of the boats in the middle of the fleet, are there? A lot of very close bow to stern moments going on. I think the coxswains having a job on their hands to try and keep everybody steering the straightest course, but making sure they're not clashing with anybody else. Really quite packed at a point where normally we see the boats much more than they are today.
Well, Wicklow having a fantastic race here. They're in 4th place, and comfortably so. They've got 2.5 lengths up on GB7, which is the other UL Tyrian Club boat, who are half a length up on the Swiss Say Club Staefa, currently in Passage West in 7th at the moment, up on the Fishguard and Goodwick Jemima boat, who have
So again, we give our commentators the opportunity to find a better position for continuing the great commentary that we've heard so far. But I've got the chance to speak with Tim Fenimore, not only an athlete, a coastal athlete, but also here managing the boat handling. Tim, how has it been for you guys? What's the challenge of being a boat handler here?
Challenges are around the shore break. It's very sucky, dragging the fin back in. And quite a dumpy shore break as well. So the challenge is to keep the stern of the boat high so the fin doesn't get snapped off and the boat doesn't fill up with water with that back suck. and just get the athletes in as efficiently as possible. We've taken a lot of care on the bow seat to present the blade handles and the blades at the right angle for the bow seat in particular. So
I can imagine lining up the fours is even more complicated than lining up the smaller boats, right? What's the challenge there?
yeah, the fours are just so big. You know, it's very close, about close quarters. So you've got to keep an eye. Someone's keep an eye on the distance between the other boats, get the alignment right. So you've got one looking at the distance, one looking at alignment, and then just helping the crew to get in and giving them instructions.
So if you, as an athlete, would have to choose between the beach start and the ocean start, the water start, what would you choose?
Oh, beach start every time. Yeah, it's much more exciting. It spreads the fleet out a bit as well, because some get fast starts and some don't. So rather than everyone clashing blades on the start line, it gets messy. It's actually a cleaner start, and it's a great thing. And boat handling becomes really exciting then as well. Rather than just launching, you're really helping to win the race.
Fantastic. So you were also boat handling at Shenzhen.
Yeah.
Now we are in Oeiras in Portugal. 2 years on, what were the changes?
Yeah, Shenzhen was a sort of test time for us, working out what worked most efficiently and how to stop the boats getting damaged. I think there was a lot of work done by Bob Cattell in Britain to raise the stern. We're now sort of getting that much more active here, so it's become ingrained. All the crews are doing it rather than just the GB crew originally, so everyone's starting to copy each other. And it's becoming a lot more slick. I think the times are really dropping and there's faster starts.
Fantastic. So the sport is evolving, and I think we both agree it has a great future.
It does, and it's not just for the rowers. Boat handlers and coxes are really serious roles. They make a big difference.
Okay, so Tim, thanks very much, and thanks to all the boat handlers doing a great job here. And I think we might have a connection with our commentators again. Please, James and Peter.
You're right, Sebastian. Out in front, UL Tyrian Club GB3 now with 4 to 5 lengths of clear water up on GB2. The Bechtel Rowing Club currently in second, passing turning point 6 and now making their way to turning point 7. Saint-Malo still comfortably in third place, holding 4 lengths of clear water up on the Wicklow Rowing Club, who've got 2 lengths up on GB7, which is Tyrian. And then we find Switzerland rounding turning point 6, 2 lengths up on Ireland 2, which is the Passage West crew. They've got 2 lengths up on the orange-tipped bow of Portugal 8, which is the Naval Association of Lisbon. That's the running order for the first 8 boats, and now approaching turning point 6. It's been such a clean race, so I still can't quite get over it, but I suppose that's the advantage of having Coxed boats here to do the steering.
Absolutely, and without big sea states to add the excitement, it's just all about people managing to not take risks they don't have to and avoid the conflicts at the mark. And what's quite impressive is that the Portugal 8 team actually were the one involved in the only collision and slowdown that we had at the first turning point, and they've done an amazing job to claw back this many places and be finishing in the top 6 or 7.
Well, 9th place, we've got the Jersey Rowing Club, a length up on Japan 1. Japan 1 being the Swift Racing Japan, who have half a length up on 11th place, Fishguard and Goodwick Jemima. And the lead is now coming in towards the beach, so we'll see how they handle the dismount now as the bowmen leap onto the beach to sprint up to the line.
Yeah, so that was my sprint to line after this microphone with after this interview with Tim. Great job done, Tim.
Ora, estamos quase a chegar. We're now almost reaching the beach with the first boat, with the first squad arriving here at the beach. So let us clap your hands together in applause. The first one arriving here for the final B.
And we need all help we can get to get the boat safely away from the landing zone. So everyone, lend a hand, please. Here we come. Great Britain 3.
Yeah, it's Great Britain 2, Tyrian Club.
Sorry. Right, Great Britain. Next in is France 2 in 3rd place here. That's Saint-Malo finishing in 3rd place in this B final. What a sprint. Ireland, very fast. So that's Ireland 1 actually. Ireland 1, that's Wicklow Rowing Club. Chris Dunn, it must have been. So Switzerland safely also through the finish line here from Seeclub Stefa in 6th place in this B final. Another great sprint from Portugal. Portugal 8, I think.
E chega a embarcação da Associação Naval a conseguir também uma boa posição aqui para o 7º lugar. Portugal 8 da Associação Naval de Lisboa.
Then we have Ireland 2 also across the line, Passage West Rowing Club. Great Britain 6 coming in here fast. Great Britain 6 is Jersey Rowing Club across the line. Then we have Japan, that's Swift Rowing Club Japan. Great Britain 4 is also on the finish. Very closely bunched together. What a work from the boat handlers, so great stuff. Great Britain 4 is Fishguard, Goodwick and Jemima Rowing Club. Germany 3 across the line. That is Ruderclub Flensburg.
E chega
Portugal 5, go.
13ª posição para a embarcação de Cerveira.
So the 2 German boats across the line separated by just 9 seconds. Flensburg and Hamburg.
And now France from Cassis arriving also France 3. Camus, Remy Camus.
Right, so quite a nice picture here at the start and finish actually.
And a sprint final from the Nova Rowing Club and the Great Britain here at the finish.
Yeah, so DJ Andre picked some Jimi Hendrix for you, or a fake of Jimi Hendrix. So happy finishers, 4 kilometers of rowing after this beach start, and then 50 meters of very hard sprint. First through the a bit harder sand at the beginning, and then it's deeper and deeper once you come to the finish arch here. Greece coming in. So it's Omilos Philon Thalassis Rowing Club from Greece. So I believe we have everyone safely on shore. That means we have another couple of minutes until we hit the 5 minutes again. What a great pictures, ladies and gentlemen. The sun is again out here and shines on beautiful Portugal, on the fortress beside us. I don't know if the Minister of Defense has the highest vantage point here. He might. It used to be the Ministry of Defense right next to us. So we give you a couple of minutes to breathe, and then we introduce the next race. It's going to be the B final of the mixed double sculls.
Ora, a próxima final B vai ser os mistos em doubles. Tivemos uma chegada emocionante aqui com estas embarcações. São 4 remadores mais o timoneiro. Super emocionante em ver esta chegada. É largar os barcos, é sair, é correr, chegar em primeiro, ao mesmo tempo que já estão barcos a sair da água e a passar. É super emocionante ver toda esta saída dos remadores da água. Parabéns a todos pelo trabalho que têm feito a garantir que tudo funcione na perfeição. E o sol está de volta. Está na altura de pôr aqui o meu bonezinho para proteger um bocadinho do sol. Mesmo aqui na torre continua a haver algum, o que é simpático Bom tempo para este último dia de competição deste Campeonato do Mundo de Remo de Mar. Estamos naquela que é a longa distância, Coastal Rowing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just a bit more than 4 minutes until we have the next start. Already the last B final of these 2021 World Rowing Coastal Championships. Thanks for everyone that has contributed to this event and making it the success that it has been so far. And we'll do this in style through all the A finals to come up. First A final at 11:30 Portuguese time. Medal ceremonies for the first 3 races will be at 2:15. So, introduction of the crews. Belgium from Brussels, I think, is Calvin Gauvert.
And France, number 3, Chambéry, Vincent Cavari, Annelise Communal.
Arcachon from France, 5, Sébastien Claire, Sarah Claire.
And France 8, Le Bain au Aviron, Evelyne Collard et Jérôme Hamelin.
France 9, Marseille Rowing Club, Maxence Dupuis, Rémi Rabal.
And Great Britain 1, Camerton Rowing Club, Thomas Brain and Swim Williams.
Great Britain 2 is from Exmouth and Christchurch Rowing Clubs, and it's William Loftus and Claire Jamison.
And German 1, Hudenklub Alemannia, Martin Fein and Karina Hein.
Germany 2 is also Alemannia from Hamburg, Johannes Welch, Svenja Michaelis. Germany 3 also Alemannia from Hamburg, Christian Sharma and Annika Salvicek.
And from Hungary, number 2, Magikar Teskivskor Lok, Kor Budapest, Esther Kremer and Gregory Sads.
So from Ireland 2, we have St. Michael and St. Patrick's Rowing Clubs, Davinia Anderson, Niall O'Toole.
In Ireland 3, Donegal Bay Rowing Club, Luke Caney and Rosie Temple.
From Ireland 4, Kilmac Simon Rowing Club, David Jennings and Dara Jennings.
In Ireland 6, Mudcross Rowing Club, the Old Sullivan, Finn and Coimbra.
Italy 2, Rowing Club Genovese, Annalisa Cozzarini, Rosario Panteca.
In Italy number 3, Santo Stefano Almari, Andrea Vicente e Marta Ardizzone.
Tunisia is in the race, Mohamed Ryan Hafsa and Imen Mbraki.
And Ukraine 3, Burek Vinsnik, Igor Kmara and Victorlina Kmara.
And finally, the United States, the Green Racing Project crew, Bridget Skodorf and Luke Rain. Sometimes you just have to do it a second time to get to do it really well so that everyone can see and hear it. Here we are. Start given, and off we go. Peter and James, it's all yours.
Thanks, Sebastian. Well, a few of the Irish boats getting out quick there. We've got from Muckross Rowing Club, Finn O'Sullivan and Kiva O'Sullivan getting out, but not quite as quick as Luke Keeney and Rosie Temple.
It's a red flag. Peter. Sorry to interrupt you. So red flags all over the beach. It's a red flags from the umpire, so it's a false start, and we will try and get the crews back to shore as quickly as possible. So the boats are getting back to shore. The false start was caused by Hungary, and they get a 10 seconds penalty. So once they're on shore, they will be waiting for 10 seconds in the penalty box, and then will be allowed to complete their race. So Peter, what's your take? I mean, these athletes, they have been so well prepared mentally to go off, and then they have raced the first 100 meters, now being called back. What do you think goes through their minds at this point?
Well, an awful lot of frustration, I can imagine, for those that got off to a clean start. They'll have to come back in. It'll be a tense moment for some of the boat builders thinking about getting these boats back onto the beach, undamaged, spun back round and ready to go. But the best start there from my perspective was Luke Keeney and Rosie Temple from Donegal Bay Rowing Club, Ireland 3. They're sort of in the middle of the pack there. They were very, very fast. That's just the sort of start you want when it comes to beach starts like this. So an impressive start from them. And we'll see if that can be repeated, because we saw a number of the Irish boats. Clearly they've been practicing their beach starts, and they're experienced as Irish coastal rowers paying off here. That's what we often see, is that those experienced coastal rowers have nailed the beach start. And that's what we were hearing a moment ago in your interview, Sebastian, when it comes to having a slightly more strung out start, less clashing than when they start on water and can drift together. These beach starts where they're evenly spaced, the faster crews who have been practicing those beach starts can get out to an early lead, and we have a little bit less clashing, certainly through the first couple of 100 meters. Irish crews well trained, they've gotten away to quick starts. We also saw, though, the Italian boat rowing club Genovese, Annalisa Cozzarino, Rosario Panteca, making a good start in their bid for this B final here for the coastal mixed doubles. Looks like the boats are now all safely back on shore, so we'll wait these couple of tense moments before the starting umpire restarts that starting sequence.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Just a very friendly reminder, when you're not rowing and are on the venue, please do wear your mask to protect everyone else around you. Thanks so much for respecting this rule. I know it's too easy to forget when you're on a lovely beach like this, but please do respect this rule.
Ora, vamos repetir então a partida. Aqui rima.
Yeah, so the crew that has been awarded with a penalty actually has to wait a little longer on the beach. And this applies for Hungary.
We're underway, and again with this second attempt at the B final for the Coastal mixed doubles. 10-second delay for Hungary, but at the front of the field, it's France making the early lead here, where we can see Chambéry's Vincent Cavard and Elise Communal trying to push out for the lead. They're in France 3. It's tough to make out the early leaders at this stage. A closely packed group in the middle field here, which consists of Germany 1, Ireland 6, Ireland 2, Belgium 1. They're perhaps 2 lengths down on the current leaders, surging away on the marina side of the course. Tough to pick out the boat numbers, starting to get concealed as we see the waves start to build, the wind picking up here on this course off Oeiras.
It looks like that's Italy too, pulling out to almost half a boat length, doesn't it?
Yeah, they've had a really good couple of strokes there. That's, as you say, Italy 2, the rowing club Genovese, the engaged couple who got engaged on the beach in Shenzhen at the beach sprints 2 years ago in China. That's Annalisa Cossarini, Rosario Panteca, hoping to get married in October later this year. They're now leading the B final and continuing to surge ahead, nearly 2 lengths up already on France 5 from Arcachon, Sebastien Claire and Sarah Claire. We'll see how they slot into their race rhythm here. France 3, not far there, stern, that's Vincent Cavard and Elise Communal. Chambéry Club Nautique, they're the ones who tipped into the water going around turning point 1 in their race yesterday, and therefore finding themselves here in this B final. Would expect to see them as quite strong contenders for the lead of this B final, but we'll know more as these crews start to converge and the field spreads out as we come up towards turning point 1. It's 1 kilometre to turning point 1, that's a quarter of the entire race, and the conditions are already starting to lift a bit here, James.
There they are indeed. There's certainly a bit more wind coming into play. You can see it across the texture of the water, everything's come alive, and this is where we've got the most tide running as well at the moment. Still got a few hours, we're in those middle 2 hours of the tide, which is when traditionally you get the most water flowing, the most body of water moving, and we're coming up to spring tides on the 6th of October, so the moon is going back to a new moon in a few days' time, and for every day that passes we end up with stronger and stronger tides.
Well, the field's spreading out. We've got Rowing Club Genovese out in front. Ruder Club Alemannia, which is Germany 1, Malte Hein and Karina Hein, solidifying second place, 2 lengths behind the leading Italians. The Germans, they're in their yellow-topped boat, distinctive German flags on their oars. They're a length and a half up on France 2 at this point. France 2, that's France 3, Chambéry Club Nautique, Vincent Cavard and Anne-Elise Communal. Bit of an entanglement there. A few blades getting mixed up towards the back of the field, but France 3 now solidifying that 3rd place ahead of France 9, which is the Marseille Rowing Club of Maxence Dupuis and Remy Rabal, currently in 4th. Not managing to pull away though from over on the far side. I believe that's Ukraine, where we've got Igor Khmara and Victoria Khmara from Burevizhnik, Ukraine. They're moving their way up on the far side. They've got a blue top boat trying to push through the crew from Marseille Rowing Club.
Interesting to see here the team from Germany 1, Ruder Club Alemannia, managing to consolidate a bit of an uptide advantage, and they were a couple of boat lengths back from Italy 2, but they've really brought that back to, you know, they're overlapping by half a boat length now, so it's going to be really, really tight at this mark, I think. Again, them working the uptide advantage.
Strong strategy, putting in a fast performance to the first turning point. Rowing Club Genovese out in front still, not by much, and they're starting to turn into the turning point now. This could see them cut across in front of Germany 1, the Ruder Club Alemannia, Heinz, and then we've got France 3, the Chambéry Club Nautique, Cavard and Communal, and then not much separating 4th place here, which is still between Italy 3, where we find the Santo Stefano Al Mare boat moving up on the inside of this bend. France 9, the Marseille Rowing Club, level with them. A few big choppy waves coming in now. That'll have surprised them after the relatively calm waters that we had up to this stage. But round the bend, Genovese leading, Ruder Club Alemannia, Germany 1 in 2nd, Marseille Rowing Club 3rd. We've then got Santo Stefano Al Mare in 4th, cleanly around the corner now, Marseille Rowing Club in 5th, Ukraine 6th, and then it's tight as we see Ireland 6 make the corner. Ireland 6, which is Muckross Rowing Club, just getting moved around on the outside by the USA. That's the Green Racing Project, Bridget Skodoff and Luke Rain, ahead of Ireland 6, and then Tunisia 1, Ireland 2 next, and Germany 2, France 8, and that's the running order for the leaders. Quite a tightly packed group at the back of the field here. Bit of a mishap, I think. Luke Keeney and Rosie Temple finding themselves trailing at the back. A little bit of an entanglement causing them some issues, but they're safely around the bend now as we find Great Britain 2 tangled up with Belgium. Great Britain 2, which is the Exmouth and Christchurch Rowing Club, tangled up with the Rovert siblings of Belgium. Now both safely detangled as the flotilla makes their way towards turning point 2.
Quite a bit of chop came in right at the wrong moment there, didn't they? On that the last few boat lengths to that mark. Suddenly we had some sea state pickup and all the boats really crashing down, a couple of people stopping almost entirely, and that's right at the moment when you want the most control, the most manoeuvrability, and to hold your speed as best as you can to the mark. And I think that's why we saw a lot of people lose their line and then a few little collisions there and just cross blades at the critical moment as everybody's converging in on that mark.
Well, this group of boats now already the leaders, perhaps a third of the way towards turning point 2. They're well established into their race rhythm, now heading into the slightly choppier seas as we see the swells start to grow. Current only going to get harder for these athletes as the day goes on.
Yeah, thankfully for them, the wind, there's not really much wind to speak about here at the moment. Less than 10 knots, I'd say, looking at the surface of the water. You can't feel much at all. It will feel a bit stronger as they're rowing into it. Their boat speed building an apparent wind that moves across them themselves, but less than 10 knots of true wind, I think, out here, although through the afternoon that is expected to grow, and as it starts to blow against the outgoing tide after midday, that's when things are going to get exciting. That's when the sea state's going to start to build. We're going to see the sort of chop that then makes a big difference as to whether you're in the bigger boats or the smaller boats, and really hard to predict which boat will come out and handle those conditions the best, and that's part of the exciting thing about this. We just have no idea which of these races are going to be the most dramatic in terms of that, and which ones are going to use the power and endurance of the athletes the most, and which ones are going to test their technique and ability to row in the rougher water.
Well, out in front now is Malte Hein and Karina Hein from Ruder Club Alemannia with their distinctive yellow boat, ahead of the Rowing Club Genovese combination of Kotsarina and Panteca. Not far behind them, though, we still find France 3 from Chambéry Club Nautique, Vincent Cavard and Anne-Elise Communal. And then we've got quite a big margin back then. We've got 5 boat lengths back to, I believe, Ukraine trying to move up the order here. A tricky race, of course, to jostle for position coming up towards turning point 2. We're halfway there, so we're 1.5 kilometers into this course. Italy 3 currently in 5th place. The Italians from Santo Stefano al Mare, Andrea Vincenzi and Marta Ardisone. Not in the safest of positions because Ukraine trying to move up the order. It's USA 1 in 4th, in fact. USA Green Racing Project ahead of the Santo Stefano al Mare boats in 5th. They're only half a length up on the Ukraine combination of Igor Khmara and Victoria Khmara. So the running order is Germany 1 first, Rowing Club Genovese 2nd, 3rd place is Chambéry Club Nautique France 3, 4th the USA Green Racing Project, 5th is a close one, it's Italy Santo Stefano al Mare in 5th, 6th Ukraine, 7th we then have Tunisia ahead of France 9, which is the Marseille Rowing Club. So the field's starting to get very spread out now, certainly at the front of the pack.
It's certainly spread out, but there doesn't seem to be much slowing people down or putting them off their pace. We've got relatively flat conditions on the second half of this leg, which again is where we've previously seen some of the most excitement. So everybody's able to just focus on the power and endurance and consolidate whatever leads and advantages they've got, or try and make up any gaps that may have occurred through mishaps at turn 1.
That's it. We find, though, in 9th place at the moment, Ireland 6, which is the Muckross Rowing Club combination of Finn O'Sullivan and Kiefer O'Sullivan. And then 10th, Ireland 2, St Michael's and St Patrick's, Davinia Anderson and Neil O'Toole pretty much level then with the Hungarians, who had that 10-second penalty out of the start from the Magyar Test Gyökörök Kore Budapest, where we've got Esther Kramer and Gergely Zas. We've seen them before. They've raced on the Flatwater International Circuit previously, so they'll have the endurance and power from training in that discipline. But as we so often find, the question is, can it be transmitted into power on the water? Aix-les-Bains en Aviron, Evangeline Collu and Jérémy Hamelin trailing then in 12th. Germany 3 behind them, where we've got the Ruder Club Alemannia boat. We've got 3 boats from Ruder Club Alemannia. This is Germany 3, Christian Benedikt Schwarmer and Annika Sophie Salvicek. And then Belgium 1 just ahead of Great Britain 2.
The Hungarian team have done such a great job to stay in touch with the middle of the fleet here, considering they were 10 seconds behind everybody else. And then they ended up on the left hand, the down tide, therefore probably the disadvantaged side of the course there. But I think probably they made their big gain when everybody else got a little tangled at the mark, and because they were on the outside of it all, they were able to see that happen ahead of them, predict how it was going to play out, and then just steer a bit of a wider course and essentially row round all the other boats that were still trying to untangle themselves. So sometimes there's an advantage to being at the back and seeing what's going on ahead of you. You can learn the hard lessons that the crews just ahead of you have unfortunately had to learn for themselves and essentially use it to your advantage. So sometimes being that little bit further back with a bit more space isn't always a bad thing.
And they're continuing to pump their way up the order here. I mean, you were telling me about the equivalent in the sailing field when you have to start from behind. It's allowed the Hungarians here, Kramer and Zas, to choose their line. They've gone round the outside of the course, opting for the safer route, which will cause less clashing with the other boats, and they're quickly coming up towards the top 8 or so in this field of 20 boats. First round the bend though, we've got Germany leading, but as we pass turning point 2, it's Germany out in front ahead of Genovese and then Chambéry Club Nautique. But we're going to catch up with Sebastian. Sebastian, how are things looking from the tower, and who have you got to chat with there?
Well, thanks, Peter. I've got 2 guys from the United States team who have raced their B finals yesterday. First, let's have your name and your names, and then let's talk about the B final yesterday.
Sure. My name is John Oeiras.
I need to start. So we restart this interview, hopefully with the sound.
Sure. My name is John Oeiras.
John Huppy.
So you guys raced the B final yesterday. How was that?
It was a lot of fun. It was, I think, chaotic like most of the races were, but the conditions were really challenging and tested our skills pretty well.
John, you were racing. Both of you were racing the sprints. What's the main difference from your perspective? You took a bronze at the sprints.
Yes, we did take a bronze at the sprint. The changes in conditions really are just that we're offshore now. So the tidal flow, the river flow really became a big factor this weekend.
So preparing for both events, what did you do especially to prepare both for the sprints and the long distance race?
Just a lot of boat time.
All right. How often do you train?
We've been training almost every day for the last couple months, so it's been a lot of training.
Fantastic. So let's hear it. Where do you come from, actually?
I'm from New Orleans, which is on the Gulf South of the U.S.
I'm from Washington, D.C.
Right. So you live together somewhere and train together, or is it New Orleans, or?
No, we are all over the U.S., so we have to fly to train together. So it's a lot of training camps.
Right. So the perspective, will you continue to race in the double, or continue to race in coastals?
Absolutely, yes. This is a much more wild, much more cerebral, very, very intense version of the sport. The beach sprints compared to the endurance race, they're both incredibly exhilarating in their own respect, especially since the endurance race is as much a physical fitness challenge as it is a navigational challenge, and being able to read conditions and put your boat exactly where it needs to be with the swells, the currents, and the wind.
Yeah, so you will prepare for the Welsh edition next year at Saundersfoot, about the same time of the year, a little later.
Certainly, we'll be there.
Excellent. So thanks very much. That was Team USA in the men's double race that have raced yesterday in the B final. Look forward to seeing you guys again next year. And Peter, I think you can tell us the story of the race that we have missed so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the leaders still in their yellow top boat, now just passing turning point 3. That's the German combination of Malte Hein and Karina Hein from Ruder Club Alemannia, Germany 1. They're still ahead of Annalisa Cozzarini and Rosario Panteca from Rowing Club Genovese, still in second place. No change then in the couple of places behind them, where we find Vincent Cavard and Anne-Elise Comenal from Chambéry Club Nautique in third. And behind them then it's the American boat Green Racing Project, Bridget Skodorf and Luke Reen. There's then a very big gap back to Ukraine's Igor Khmara and Victoria Khmara, currently riding in 5th place, ahead of the other Italian crew from Santo Stefano al Mare, where we've got Andrea Vicenzi and Marta Ardisone. That's the leading 6 boats, and they're nearly all around turning point 3 already, which means that the leaders, Ruder Club Alemannia's Malte Hein and Karina Hein, we were talking about this a moment ago, weren't we, James, that they weren't the fastest out of the start line or off the beach, but we saw that the Rowing Club Genovese boat was. They put quite a lot into that start, and then Germany have just had a great race rhythm. What did you think of those 2 tactics?
I mean, it was the Italians obviously committed hard to that first leg and realised that if they kept the advantage around that mark and their ability to make their own tactical decisions without being forced into a position by the other boats, then that really is to their advantage. And I think both the Italian and the German team managed to do that. You saw that with a really nice clear mark grounding, and it meant they pulled out some significant distance before the other boats even managed to get clear of that, especially no risk of getting caught up in any of the other stoppages that we saw behind. Obviously just not able to keep that momentum and pressure up for the second leg. Obviously the second leg's into the tide, which means it's harder, and rowing into 3-4 knots of tide can often feel like rowing through treacle, even in these, you know, beautifully streamlined boats that are designed for these sort of conditions. It makes such a difference, just the feeling and the response and feedback you get through the blades as to whether you're rowing into the tide, across it, or down it. And it's a much, much harder pace and momentum to maintain, particularly in the first bit of the deep water leg there. And that's where we saw the Italians' advantage disappear and the Germans really overhaul. So they've just managed those conditions just that little bit better.
Well, Germany still in front. They've opened up just about 100 meters ahead of Rowing Club Genovese. Germany just passing turning point 6 now. Genovese halfway towards it, ahead of Chambéry Club Nautique. Germany at 30 strokes a minute to Genovese at 32, so a slightly higher rate of striking set by the stroke man there. Rosario Panteca and Annalisa Cozzarini supporting in the bows. We've then got the Chambéry Club Nautique 4 lengths astern of them, moving up towards turning point 6. So positions look to be unchanged, and I doubt they'll change much through the remainder, perhaps 500 meters of this 4K course. So they'll be confident knowing that they can start to wind it up for a sprint finish if they wanted to do so, and we could see a position change if the front runners are gassed out after that first 3.5K around the buoys here offshore of Oeiras and the Carcavelos beach. Slightly tighter pack coming through past turning point 5, positions chopping around a little bit. We've got Italy coming through next, Santo Stefano al Mare. They've got 3 lengths on Ukraine, who then have 3 lengths on Tunisia. And then 4 lengths behind them, it's pretty close between the Hungarian crew, who are just rowing through Marseille Rowing Club, France 9, and then France 8 behind them, which is the Aix-les-Bains-en-Aveyron combination of Evangeline Collu and Jeremy Hamelin. 2 lengths behind them, then we've got Ireland 6, which is the Muckross Rowing Club combination of Finn O'Sullivan and Kiefer O'Sullivan. Belgium passing the turning point 2 lengths behind Ireland 6. Caitlin Covert and Calvin Covert 4 lengths ahead of Germany 3 coming through next, which is another one of the Ruder Club Alemannia boats. Christian Benedict Schramer and Annika Sophie Salvicek Ireland 2 come through next, where we've got the St Michael's and St Patrick's, Davinia Anderson and Neil O'Toole, just a little bit ahead of Great Britain 2, the Exmouth and Christchurch Rowing Club, William Loftus and Claire Jameson. That's the running order. The leaders now coming up towards the beach. You can tell us how they get out of the boat there then, Sebastian.
Oh, Germany 1 coming close to shore here, the couple Malte and Carina Hein from Ruderclub Alemannia von 1866, Hamburg. A very traditional club, one of the oldest in Hamburg and also in Germany. But now also a mixed club. It wasn't that way until a few years ago. Here's Carina Hein making her sprint towards the finish line, and it's the win for the Hamburg crew at the 2021 World Rowing Coastal Championships, the B final. Very happy contenders here. The A final will be our last race of today. It's the mixed double A final at 5:15, 20 boats contesting, so the Germans that we've just seen completing their race are 21st in the world ranking. Here's another sprint. Where's the audience? Come on, give them a hand. Very well done to Italy. Annalisa Cozzari, Sebastiano Rodasio Panteca. Well done. France 3 coming in. That's Chambéry, Vincent Cavard, Anne-Élise Communal. United States of America taking 4th in this B final. That's the crew from a Green Racing Project, and it was Luke Rain crossing the line here. His partner is Bridget Skodov. Wow, what a sprint to the line. Very, very close together between Ukraine 3 and Italy 3. Just 1/100th of a second separating those two crews. Ukraine taking 5th place, Italy taking 6th place. Then we have Tunisia coming in also in 7th position. Tunisia, that's the club ASL. Mohamed Ryan Hafsha and Iman Mbarki, that's the crew. France 9 and Hungary 2 coming in nearly on the same second. Belgium in 11th position. So crews coming in here thick and fast, closely bunched together. Ireland 6 also across the line. Ireland 6, that's Macross Rowing Club, Finn O'Sullivan, Comey O'Sullivan. And Ireland 2 with the former international elite athlete from the lightweights, Niall O'Toole, on board, also across the line in 14th place overall. Great Britain 2 came in, and here's Germany 2. Yeah, just 2.5 minutes separating first crew from 16th crew, really nicely. And this little gap, this very small gap, shows how the sport is evolving. Some crews have missed out their A final place, just narrowly so. So France 5 came in with the crew from Arcachon, near Bordeaux. Sébastien Claire, Sarah Claire. Great Britain 1, safely across the line as well from Carmarthen Rowing Club. Thomas Brain and Swin Williams. So Kiln McSimon Rowing Club, David Jennings and Dara Jennings also across the line into the finish arc.
Ora, esta foi a última competição da Final B às 10 da manhã com estes Double Miss, em que saiu vitoriosa a embarcação da Alemanha, número 1, a Ruder Club Almanien von 1866, com Malwein e Carina Wein em primeiro lugar. A segunda embarcação foi a da Itália, do Rowing Club Genovese, com Annalisa Cosarini e Rosário Pateca. E na terceira posição para este misto foi a embarcação da França 3, Chambéry, com Vincent Cavard e Annelise Communal. A quarta posição cai para os Estados Unidos, do Green Racing Project, Bridget Schaudorf e Luke Ryan para a quarta posição. E a fechar o quinto lugar, a Ucrânia 3, com o Burensvitsnik, com Igor Kmara e Victorina Kmara.
So that concludes our session of B finals. The next finals are all medal finals. First medal final will be the women's quadruple sculls at 11:30. So we have a little gap of just under 1 hour now for you to recover, to get possible boat damages repaired. So thanks to all the boat builders on the venues. Quite a few of them around here have generously given their service to the crews. And so that's going to come up very shortly. 11:30 first A final. Then we have 12:15 as start time for the men's double sculls. We've just seen the mixed double sculls B final. So the A final for the men's double sculls is at 12:15. And then at 1 o'clock, we have the women's solo. And for these three medal finals, we will hold the medal ceremonies at 2:15. So athletes will be assembling, or will be getting together behind our great video wall here half an hour earlier than that. So, and then the Group B of the A final starts at 3 p.m. and goes on all the way to 5:15 last start time. That's the mixed double sculls. And finally, medal ceremonies will be held at 6 p.m. tonight. And of course, you'll have them also here on the podium and on the big screen. So for now, enjoy your morning, grab some coffee or other liquids that might be good for athletes, and talk to you soon prior to the next start, which is at 11:30.
E a próxima saída vai ser às 11h30, portanto às 11h30 vamos ter o quadrifeminino contineiro. Esta é a primeira final para medalhas. Às 12h15, portanto ao meio-dia e 15, vamos ter a final A dos doubles masculinos e à 1 da tarde a final do skiff feminino. Estas são as três primeiras finais do grupo A para as medalhas. Às 2h15 teremos a cerimónia de entrega de medalhas desta categoria, desta final A, e depois a final B leva-nos para as 3 da tarde com os doubles femininos, o skiff masculino, os quadris masculinos com timoneiro e também as duplas mistas, a fechar esta ronda de finais do grupo E, do grupo B, às 17h15, com a entrega de medalhas final marcada para as 6 da tarde. Vamos para um pequeno gap neste momento, cerca de 1 hora sensivelmente. Há que aproveitar o momento, preparar os barcos para as próximas rondas. E uma vez mais, obrigado a todos por terem estado nesta praia a apoiar e que continuem para estas grandes finais, onde vamos começar a atribuir medalhas.
Don't miss European Coastal Challenge.
In Marina di Castagneto.
Register now.